Hello, this is Justice Backstrom, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be giving my review of Sunrise on the Reaping. So, if you don't know, this is the newest book in the Hunger Games series, and I did one of these reviews of Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes back when it came out, and so I thought, I might as well do Sunrise on the Reaping. This is the story of Haymitch's Hunger Games, and I think I'm going to say it. I think this is my favorite Hunger Games book so far. Maybe it's because I like Haymitch. I don't know. Maybe I weirdly like the more darker, less hopeful stories. I don't know. If that is the case, don't read too much into that. Huge spoiler warning for this book. If you have any interest in reading this and not having it spoiled, do not watch any more of this video. Now, for those of you that aren't going to read this or are not convinced yet of reading it, I will get into the video now. So, we know a little bit of Haymitch's Hunger Games from the original trilogy when Peeta and Katniss were they were preparing for the Quarter Quell, I think, and they watched through previous, I can't remember if they watched through previous Hunger Games in general or if they just watched through the footage of previous Quarter Quells. Either way, Haymitch's was the second Quarter Quell when they did double the tributes, and so they watched his Hunger Games, and I didn't remember too much about it, but I remembered obviously Haymitch teaming up with Maisily Donner. I always want to say Maisily O'Donnell, but it's Maisily Donner. Teamed up with her. She ended up dying, and then he won indirectly because the girl from 1, I believe, threw her axe. He ducked, and because he had discovered the force field around the arena, or in this book we find out it's not around the entire arena, but the axe bounces back off the force field and goes and takes her out. And so he had broken the arena and gotten around winning the games in an unattended way. So that was basically all we knew. That's basically all I remembered, at least, from the original trilogy about Haymitch's games. That and the fact that his family and his girlfriend ended up dead very shortly after his victory, again, as retribution for him breaking the games. So, getting into the games, getting into the book, we meet his girlfriend, Lenore Dove, and I'm not going to go too much into spoilers, but she's Covey, and one thing I will say that's kind of the only negative thing I can say about this, although I'm being kind of petty with this, is basically every named character in this, aside from some of the the tributes, obviously, and a few capital people and stuff, basically everybody is somebody that's already established in either the original trilogy or Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which referencing characters from previous books is like it's like cool, like Easter egg, whatever, but when you do it to this extent, it feels a little cheap and lazy. But again, that may just be me being unnecessarily petty, and it's not, like I said, this is probably my favorite book in the series so far, and you know, it's a good book. So I'm not gonna harp on that too much. But Haymitch goes to the games. He's not actually, there's supposed to be 4 tributes, and then one of them bolts and makes a run for it and ends up being shot. And Haymitch's girlfriend, Lenore Dove, tries to help the kid that got shot, and then the peacekeepers are, I guess, like dragging her away or whatever, and Haymitch runs up to try to help her, and because of that, they say, okay, he just volunteered to be the replacement for the guy that they, just killed. So Haymitch goes to the games, obviously, and there's 3 other characters. Maisley, we already know, and Luella McCoy, who Haymitch knows, basically has known her all her life, and she's 13, and they're really close, and they team up almost immediately. And then the 4th tribute is Wyatt Callow, and he's his family does like gambling and betting and stuff, including betting on the games. So again, not trying to go into too much spoilers, but Luella ends up dying because their chariot goes berserk, and they're flung out of the chariot, and I guess her skull cracks open on the pavement. Haymitch picks her up, runs all the way to the end of the chariot parade, and lays her body like in front of President Snow to kind of make a message there. That's not broadcast, but he is sort of in trouble for that. Anyways, though, but the Capitol doesn't want the entire nation to know that they fumbled that and had a tribute die during the chariot parade. So they take this other girl who's believed to be from District 11, and I feel like I'm going pretty in depth here. Anyways, they give her cosmetic surgery, make her, and they're like, this is Luella now. And again, both of these, they end up calling her Lulu, but Luella and Lulu, both very innocent, young, vulnerable, and really sad just their whole situation. I wanted to cover that, and I've gone into kind of some detail on that, but I think it bears mentioning because, again, they were very endearing and tragic characters in the story. Anyways, they go through the training and everything, and Haymitch has considered himself a dead man since he got reaped. Like, he has no real there's an interesting parallel between him and Katniss in that his father also died. He's been the caretaker, or again, his mom hasn't gone internal like Katniss's mom, but he is the man of the house. He's doing a lot of work to keep them afloat. And but unlike Katniss, because Katniss used that as motivation that she has to win the games, Haymitch has considered himself dead since he has no hope of winning the games, not really. So he's kind of going out of his way to make statements against the Capitol, against the games and stuff like that, and, you know, painting a target on his chest or back, whatever. And he ends up meeting Plutarch, and Plutarch is kind of like, I guess, picked up on the fact that Haymitch is willing to sacrifice himself to take down the Capitol or do whatever he can against the Capitol. And so Plutarch brings Haymitch into this plot to try and sabotage the arena, and not in the way that he does with the force field that we already know of. So during his games, I'm trying to figure out how is he going to sabotage the arena and survive long enough to win the games. And because, like, I figured, like, once he sabotages the arena, that's it. Like, they're gonna take him out. For whatever reason, they end up not taking him out. And again, there's spoilers, but I'm trying not to spoil too much. And so, like I said, he's considered himself a dead man. So he doesn't really care what he does. He doesn't care if the Capitol takes him out, because he's like, you know, I'm gonna die either because the Capitol kills me or because a tribute kills me. It doesn't really matter. I'm gonna do what I can to sabotage the Capitol. But then once he realizes that, like, oh, he's gonna freaking win, now he's caught between two opposing moral imperatives, basically, where he has a moral imperative to, you know, protect his family from retribution for what he does in the games, because, like, if he dies in the games, then the Capitol's probably going to leave his family alone. But if he somehow survives the games, then the Capitol's going to torture or kill his family. But at the same time, he has a moral imperative to fight the evil of the Capitol. And so all the way up to the very end, he's focused on sabotage the Capitol and sacrifice myself for it. And then he survives and he's like, oh my gosh, I just destroyed, I just basically killed my family, right? So that was a very interesting sort of subplot to it, and I like those interesting, like, moral dilemmas and stuff. And then he gets out of the games and he's forced into all sorts of humiliation and stuff because of what he did to sabotage the games and fight the Capitol. And then he gets home, and, like, the night that he returns, his family house is burnt down, and then, like, within a few days, his girlfriend Lenore Dove is killed. And then from that point on, he basically just doesn't allow anyone in his life, because he knows that anyone in his life is in danger, and the Capitol won't kill him because the Capitol wants him to be alive to be tormented for the rest of his life, basically. So he forcibly shuns everyone from his life, obviously becomes a raging alcoholic, and that's what leads him to becoming where we see him in the original trilogy, as he's not only had no one in his life, lost everyone he ever loved, but every year he has to train 2 innocent kids just to see them die. And that's basically where I'm probably going to leave this, because again, I've basically spoiled the major plot points of the book, but there's still, I still do seriously suggest you go read this, and I've tried to leave enough vagaries that it would still be an enjoyable read if you do end up going and doing that. There was so much that I could have said that I didn't, and again, definitely worth reading. So that's all I'm going to say for now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you later. Bye.